G'day folks, Jim here from FX Charts, 8th of January. Thanks for dropping by. Well, the dollar's been pretty mixed really overnight in Europe and the States. It made some headway against some currencies and lost a little bit against some others. The main driving factor of the day was the improved US trade deficit. Came in at about 34 billion as opposed to a $40 billion deficit, which had been expected. This gives rise to hopes of a slightly improved GDP number for the fourth quarter and going into 2014, and it saw the dollar make a bit of a blip higher, but it's since lost that ground, and the dollar mostly is pretty much unchanged from yesterday. Earlier in the day we had some improved data out of Germany. The unemployment data was better than expected, as were the retail sales. But at the end of the day, the euro's pretty much unchanged. We're going to have a look at the euro now, and as you can see from this hourly chart, it's pretty much chopping around and is mostly really unchanged from yesterday. As I say, it did make a little brief blip lower, but it's recovered from the euro's recovered from its lows and is sitting around just above 136. And I think that's probably going to continue for the rest of the day, really, at least until we get the US data out, which is going to include the, highlight will be the FOMC minutes, but also we're going to get the ADP private jobs data, which comes ahead of Friday's non-farm payrolls. So really, until the US get going, I think we're probably stuck within sort of 136 to 137. If we go and look at the 4-hour charts, we've got this support down here. We've got some support here, the 50% pivot of the whole move up, and we've got further support down here. So 135 and a quarter, 135.50. I think we'll hold it on the downside. I don't actually think we're going to get that far, at least until the FOMC minutes release. And on the top side, I'll be surprised really if we get above, 136.5 has covered it for the last couple of days. Since the fall earlier in the week, we haven't really recovered. If it does go above 136.5, then we can probably see it back up at 136.70. I'd very much doubt going above 137. The 4-hour charts are slightly positive perhaps, but really I wouldn't get too phased in either direction at the moment, and suggest that it's probably just a bit of a range trade. Looking further out, the dailies do still point lower. So as with the last couple of days, I've got an order in myself to sell it 136.70 with a stop loss at about 137.5. I'd like to think we might make a bit of a squeeze higher, but as I say, the dailies are pointing lower, and eventually I'm hoping that we will see the euro come a bit lower, but it probably is going to need an improved non-farm payroll number to push the euro lower. And given the weather in the States at the moment, the figure of 195,000, I did notice yesterday that one bank's projecting a number of 220,000 plus. But since then, with the weather as it is, those projections have come back a bit. So at the end of the day, maybe we shouldn't be looking for too much, and I can see the euro probably hanging around 135.5, 136.5 going into the end of the week. Dollar yen, that's also very choppy, not doing an awful lot. It is trying to push higher at the moment. The hourly charts are showing some mild positive momentum, but we're coming into some resistance here. We've got the 100 and 200 hour moving averages immediately ahead of us. 104.70, 80 has really proved toppish. I think that was 104.90. We haven't really been back above 105 since the fall down from 105.40, and I think we're probably in for more range bound trade. The 4 hourlies do look positive though, and we could see a squeeze up towards 105. I think there'll be plenty of sellers up there should we see it. And once again, looking out further out on the dailies, it's not really suggesting me that we're likely to see anything much above 105 in the next couple of days. And if anything, the the move may be back down towards the downside. But there's good support at 104 and below there, with 103.90 I think having been yesterday's low, and there's minor support at around this 103.70 area, which is backed up by the first FIBO level at 103.5, just below 103.5 as we suggested yesterday. Sterling, equally, that's doing pretty little. It's just chopping around, going nowhere fast. It seems pretty happy at 164 at the moment. The hourly charts aren't showing it any direction. The 4 hourlies, well, they look as though they might be trying to hit a little bit hard, but they're not really making much of a success of it. And the dailies are actually, as with the euro, pointing a little bit lower. And really, if we got up to above 165, if we saw 164, sort of 70, 164.80 area, I'd be a seller there. And I don't think we're going above 165 for the time being. Dollar Swiss was the one interesting currency that's done as we'd actually hoped over the weekend, and the dollar's actually headed a bit higher here. Had some help from the Swiss National Bank, which suggested that the currency reserves have fallen by almost 700 million francs since December, suggesting that the pressure on the cap has eased somewhat. And in Euro Swiss, that had a good move from, where was it, 123 up to, it's currently 123.80, 123 3/4. So that's had a good move to the top side. As far as dollar Swiss goes, as you can see, we've got a little bit of bearish divergence on the hourly charts. We've got higher price action, but lower tops. Now, while the euro's not doing anything, I can't really see dollar Swiss really making too much headway on the top side. I would think that if we saw 91.10 today, which is that high up here, that's probably a sell. If we go above 91.10, then I think we're heading back towards 91.40. But just as a day trade, I'd probably be a seller at 91.10. Equally, if we can come back down to this trend line down around 90.40, I'd be a buyer there as well. The 4-hour charts are a little bit overbought and look as though they're running out of steam. The RSIs are lacking any punch, so are the stochastics. And the dailies are reasonably flat. They're looking as though they may want to push a little bit higher in the next day or so. So possibly look to buy dips once again. We're toying here with this 100-day moving average. That's we're sitting right on it at the moment at around 90.90. And maybe if we can break higher over the next couple of days, then we do head a bit higher. But on the day, I'd be surprised to see it much above 91.10 into Europe, and really we could go up to 90.40, 90.50 later on. But I'm not really looking for too much. The Aussies are pretty tedious as well. It did have a spike to the downside once the stops at 89.10 were taken out, but it's bounced from its 88.93 low back to 89.20 and really not doing an awful lot. The hourlies are not really giving us much of a hint. The 4 hourlies, they're looking a little bit negative, but the dailies look as though they're still trying to recover somewhat, but I'm getting a bit dubious about it all. And in the longer term, I think we're probably headed up. For the time being, though, there's not an awful lot out today. I would use sort of 88.80 as a base, 89, 50, 60 as a top. Don't really think we're going above there today. The Kiwi's been very choppy, and I'm not really been interested. But I'm just wondering if we're building a bull flag here. We've come up from this low, and this is an hourly chart we're looking at here. Just wondering if we're forming a little bit of a bull flag. Now, if that was to be the case, the top side target, if we were to break out on the top side, this is about 180 pips. So if it did break out, we're looking at something just shy of 85, the figure. That seems a long way off to me at the moment. If we look further out, we haven't been up there for quite some time, so I wouldn't be getting too excited. But we're going to see resistance up here at sort of 83.30. There's more at this 61.8% at 83.65. So, you know, 85 seems a long way away to me at the moment. But you never know. We may just make it. The top of the long-term descending trend line is about 84.80. So maybe that's a target for further down the track that we're looking at. I'd just keep an eye on that. It's not really, the momentum indicators aren't really suggesting an awful lot at the moment. That's a 4-hour. The dailies, well, they're not really showing as much in any direction. So I'd just keep an eye on that. If it were to break, what's the level? If it were to break, say the top side here about 80, we'll call it last week's high, or call it last week's high 83. 83.05. Sorry, that's not last week's high. This week's high 83.15. But if it took out 83.05, then maybe we are going to head a little bit higher. There'll be some resistance here, but something worth keeping an eye on in the lack of any other inspiration. So I think all up, we've got to wait for the data from the minutes. That'll give us some direction. And then, of course, we've got the ECB on Thursday, as we have the Bank of England and the non-farm payrolls today. Also keep an eye on non-farm payrolls on Friday, but keep an eye on the ADP numbers later on today. So that's about it. Have a very good day's trade, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Cheers.